Our Region's Business is sponsored by PNC for the achiever in you. Our Region's Business. Innovation, transformation, momentum. Improving our communities and driving technologies that will shape our region for generations. The collaboration that brings vitality, prosperity, and life to living. Stay with us for the coming half hour as we examine in depth our region's business. Now, here's your host, Bill Flanagan.
Today on Our Region's Business, the push for sustainability. It's more and more mainstream. Plus, the Pittsburgh Reader. 75 years of our region's history is captured by the University of Pittsburgh Press in a new book. But first, the City of Pittsburgh voters consider the future of the Carnegie Library. You see, Andrew gave away thousands of libraries a century or so ago, including to the City of Pittsburgh. But there was a catch. He would give the building, but the books and the ongoing operational costs were left to the communities themselves. Well, on Election Day, the City of Pittsburgh voters will consider a referendum to increase property taxes to provide a dedicated funding stream for the library system. Mary Alice Gorman is owner of the Mystery Lovers Bookshop in Oakmont, but a lifelong City of Pittsburgh resident. Right. And Patrick Dowd is a Pittsburgh City Councilman. Welcome. Good to see both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Bill.
Yeah, so I guess, obviously, you love books. You love the City of Pittsburgh. That's why you're in this game.
I live and breathe the written word. I do.
And so you're one of the volunteers who's really been out there campaigning on behalf of this effort, right?
I'm one of many people in the community that was very concerned when I heard that the possibility of some of the community branches being closed. I think the library's vital to our culture. It is important. And many citizens felt the same way. And we've all come together around this initiative to hopefully be able to maintain the hours and the availability to everybody in the city of every service that the library provides.
A big hue and cry was a couple of years ago. Library, as a result of a lot of strategic planning, a lot of thought, came out with a recommendation. We're going to rationalize the system. We're going to shrink. We're going to right size. And nobody wanted to hear it. Let's try to see if we can preserve as much of the structure as we can. So this referendum really is a response to that, Councilman?
This referendum comes directly out of the public's outcry against this. The public said very clearly in 2009, no, you can't close branches, and we want to help. And there was a task force that was formed. Judge Lucchino has been the chair of that task force, and it looked at creating a plan that eventually had 6 parts to it. And the voter initiative is really the centerpiece. The other parts involve continued efforts around private donations and contributions, RAD contributions and things of that sort. But the voter initiative is the centerpiece and hopefully will provide sustainable funding to the Carnegie Library ongoingly.
So what exactly is on the ballot?
So the question on the ballot will ask citizens to dedicate 0.25 mils of property tax. That's equivalent to $25 a year or $2.09 a month if your house were valued at $100,000. So the average assessment in the City of Pittsburgh is less than that, but we use that equivalency for round numbers. Ask them to dedicate that money directly to the Carnegie Library, not to the city, not to the county, not to the school board, but directly to the library, to be used only for operation and maintenance of the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh. So this money will be a dedicated funding stream exclusively for the Carnegie Library.
Are there any other revenue streams that come off of city property taxes like this for designated uses?
No. Property taxes are used to support school districts, they're used to support county governments and city governments. And in some cases, the state allows us to do a referendum of this sort. It's one of the very few things where Pennsylvanians can have a referendum. Carnegie Library is one of those things.
Wow. So, but City Council then won't have any oversight of how this money gets allocated or spent?
This will go directly to, no oversight from the City Council. Just some people are worried that this would end up in potholes or, council or
gets real tempting when you have those revenue
This will go directly to the Carnegie Library.
Huh. And I would take it, you would think for most people with a $100,000 house, $25 a year is well worth it for what we get.
It's a deluxe pizza and a gallon of soda. But I think that the services that are provided are immeasurable. My husband for many years was a VITA volunteer, and he worked in many of the libraries doing taxes for self-employed people, painters and cleaners and hairdressers and food service workers. That's where they go, and evening hours are essential to them. Plus, another thing that I think people don't think about often, and I've visited a lot of the libraries in the past couple of weeks, everybody who works in the library is asked at least once a day to teach somebody to use a computer.
Yeah.
So they're no longer there just to lift books. They have to be trained in the technology, and they have to be trained in the technology in a way that they can teach somebody who may not speak English, who's using it for a tutorial, who's looking for a job, whatever the reason might be. Every person who works in that library now has to be trained much more sophisticated way.
Really good point. You think some of the more distressed neighborhoods in the city, it's the library and maybe a church, and that's the glue that holds it all together in some cases. How much money would this raise?
This would generate about $3.2 million annually for the Carnegie Library. Our budget, we have about $20 million that comes in from the RAD and from the state, and this would be in addition to that, and it would really support those neighborhood-based services that we provide at the branches and out beyond the branches.
So does that mean then the library's fat and happy after this, and they don't need to think about the cost side?
No. When we heard from the public in 2009, they said, let us help, but they also said, don't put the whole burden on the public. Don't have a tax that would cover all of the gap. And really, it's a partnership between the board of the library and the public. The referendum is one aspect of it, but the board itself will have to continue to advocate at places like the RAD and the state government for continued funding, and it will have to go out and raise money for an endowment for operations and things of that sort. So it's a partnership, and closing the gap will involve both sides of this equation and the full partnership of the public and the board.
I'm on the development committee of the library, and we have a very long list of plans to be able to cover the losses in revenue that have been experienced by RAD and by the state. If you saw the piece that was in this morning's paper, there's certainly what is some concern about the lack of sales tax being paid for internet purchasing, and that's experienced directly. That's the experience directly that has an impact on libraries and schools.
Sure, it's been flowing all the way down from the state when it has its budget issues. Last question, we only got a few seconds left, but some risk to the city. I mean, one of the big reasons why people leave the city in Allegheny County for the suburbs is they want to dodge the property taxes.
So this is such a negligible increase. I have 5 kids, so $25 a year is about what we would have to pay. That's a big deal, but if you measure out the services that we get, it's a really easy value proposition. This is a 0.8% increase in the property taxes for the city. It's a very small increase for an incredible service that all citizens get access to.
All right. Yeah.
And I think when I collected signatures for this, so many people want to know the library's there when they need it.
That's right.
So a lot of it is the value.
That's right.
What value we're going to get for what we're paying.
Especially in these difficult times.
Yeah, very good. Well, Mary Alice Gorman, Patrick Dowd, thank you both so much. I guess we'll see what happens on Tuesday.
We'll see you on election night. Thanks, Bill.
A lot. Yeah.
Thank you.
Next up, 75 years of books about our region summed up in a single volume. We'll turn the pages of the Pittsburgh Reader when our region's business continues.